Hello everybody and welcome, this is Common and Cam. Considering I've ranked every Galvatron and Scourge design, I figured I might as well rank every CYCLONUS design from worst to best. Now CYCLONUS is actually one of my favourite Decepticon characters. I really enjoyed all of his various incarnations over the years. I find him a really underrated character. It's a shame that he's not in Transformers Rise of the Beast, but here's hoping he gets a movie adaptation in the future. Now without further ado, let's dive straight into the tier names. For the highest tier, of course it had to be the most iconic line.
CYCLONUS, the warrior, and his armada.
Now for the second highest tier, let's pull a quote from Transformers Armada.
Go on, scan my image! That's it! Now show me what you got! It's time to power lane! Let the good times roll!
God, I love how insane he is. And now for the neutral tier.
Galvatron, why do you attack me, your most loyal soldier?
And now for the second lowest tier, we have a quote from Transformers Robots in Disguise.
Form on me! I'll squash you like insects!
Yeah, that's gonna be tricky.
And now finally for the lowest tier, we'll pull a quote from the Nintendo DS version of War for Cybertron.
The enemy faces certain defeat. Prepare for unbearable suffering.
First up we have the Generation 1 CYCLONUS. Now when it came to the Transformers movie, characters were designed first, then made into toys. Designed by artist Floro Deary, the original CYCLONUS and his toy had a massive head, and I do not like this. It's so goofy looking. But I will praise the colours. I like the design patterns on the toy. I think it works really well. Now these were just stickers for the toy, but I'm glad they brought them back by putting them on the Kingdom CYCLONUS for the Legacy line. I mean, this CYCLONUS design went through many revisions until we got the end result for the movie. I think the modified version is superior. I mean, it's the CYCLONUS we've all come to know and love. He looks way more intimidating now. And, well, a warrior. Now fans tend to debate which colours are superior, the light purple or the dark purple. I personally prefer both. I even like the Marvel Comics colours, even though that's an earlier design of CYCLONUS that I don't like. I do like that shade of purple. And well, that's because one of my favourite colours is purple. And at the same time, I'll rank the Kingdom CYCLONUS. Like I mentioned already, I really like this toy. It's one of the best figures I own. It feels like a masterpiece. Before the Kingdom toy, we had the Universe 2008 CYCLONUS toy, which has had many different variations over the years, and it's still an impressive toy to this day. But when it comes to colours, I much prefer the Challenge at Cybertron, so I'm going to include that on the tier list. Now bizarrely enough, way back in like 2009, there was a Flash cartoon for Transformers Universe, and CYCLONUS did appear in one episode where he's taken on Bumblebee. I can't say it's animated really well here. I remember watching this as a kid and not really liking it, and that CYCLONUS design. I mean, the quality doesn't do it any favours, but while it's not the worst, it's definitely not the best either. Not so impressive is the Combiner Wars CYCLONUS. I like the purple, but the design, it's just a redeco of Silverbolt. Like the jet mode looks cool, and the head sculpt, but the body, it's just too tanky. The hardest designs to rank would be the middle tier and the second lowest tier. A part of me feels like that should be reversed, but I'm going to go with my gut. Next up we've got the Expanded Universe CYCLONUS. This is just a redeco of Beast Machine's Ultra Jetstorm. This is not a good one. Yeah, this is just a slap-on repaint. Calling it CYCLONUS is just lame. Next up we have the CYCLONUS I grew up with, Transformers Armada. Now yes, this is a huge departure from his original Generation 1 design, but that doesn't bother me. This is such a unique robot design that I love it, and I think the name CYCLONUS fits really well. In this show, CYCLONUS is, well, insane, and to me the name CYCLONUS has always felt appropriate with that personality. Of course he comes with his Unicron Crumple Zone as well, that adds more to the helicopter mode. I think the colours mix so well. I wish this design would come back. In my own sort of Transformers fiction, I would always have this be the original Cyclonus, and he gets like heavily damaged at some point, where Unicron would reformat him into the warrior that we knew from Generation 1. To me, that kind of sounds cooler than him being like Skywarp or Bombshell, or whichever Insecticon it was. I hope we get a legacy toy of this guy. Now, I actually owned that original toy, and to be honest, it still holds up pretty well by today's standards. A Cyclonus that doesn't hold up pretty well is the build to rule figure. Oh god, that robot mode. The helicopter mode actually looks pretty decent and pretty faithful, but that robot... oh god. This is deformed Cyclonus. Next up we have Power Link Cyclonus. Now, he never upgraded to these colours in this show, but he did have an alternate toy just in the Power Links line, and you know what? These colours actually work pretty well with each other. I much prefer his original colours, but the black and green work really well. Way better than Energon, which I'll get into right now. So yes, Cyclonus was in Transformers Energon, and he had these disgusting black and white colours that just don't work well at all with the figure, in my opinion. The way how it was animated in this show, when you look at the toy, it doesn't look that bad, but when you see it animated, it just doesn't mesh well together. I usually would like this, but I found the colours really bland and boring. I would have preferred if they went with the green instead for Energon, instead of this all black and white and that weird shade of purple. He's just, I don't know, it feels like his personality has been stripped away with those colours. Now, in the Transformers Energon show, Cyclonus transforms into Snowcat. I wasn't going to include it, but considering they are basically the same character, I thought I might as well give some appreciation to Snowcat, because while I'm not going to do a Snowcat tier list, I actually like this design. Yes, the skis are a bit much, but I think it works with Cyclonus' personality, or Snowcat now, and I actually think it's a good design. Like, I've seen toy reviews of this toy, and it actually looks like it's a lot of fun, and I think they actually did a pretty good job of reinventing Cyclonus like this. Of course, we cannot forget that annoying yodeling.
Oh, this is so much fun! I love this!
Now let's get back to the original Cyclonus design. Let's talk about the comics, most specifically the IDW comics. Now, this design kind of varies. He has like huge horns and then he has small horns. I really like the artwork for all of them here. It's like more of a samurai kind of feel, which is what I've always envisioned for that original Cyclonus design. I like his face as well. It gives me sort of Death's Head kind of vibes. Of course, the colouring varies from red to yellow, but I still think this is a really badass design. And the fact that he looks like such a menace, and yet he was given this incredible, backstory in the comics. I mean, with a badass design like this, it's no wonder that tailgate fell for him. I'll talk about his recent adaptation in the comics. This is the rebooted Cyclonus, and he looks pretty cool here as well. I really like this design. I think the art style works with this really, really well. I like all the lining details on him, like on his arms as well. Like, the art style works really well here. Now let's talk about one of my favourite Cyclonus designs of all time, that being from Transformers Animated. I think Derek Joad did such a fantastic job here, and the fact that he has such a subtle backstory as well, that he's from the future and he's waiting for Galvatron. Like, this design slaps. Like, how he appeared in this show, he didn't need to speak. I like the fact that he was a silent, threat in the animated episode Transwarped. Like, he just kind of swarms in, and that's all you need to know about him, to know that, yeah, you're screwed. Such a really good shade of purple. Like, there's so much mystery about him, and I think that design really shows it, so well. I've always loved how big his horns are. Now let's talk about the Shattered Glass Cyclonus. Now, this is pretty much Hot Rod's colours, and you know what? They actually kind of work a little bit. I'm just not feeling it 100%. Like, I don't think it's a bad combination. The fact that they chose the Hot Rod colours for this design is pretty cool, but yeah, I mean, it's alright. It's average. Now let's talk about video games, most specifically the Transformers War for Cybertron Nintendo DS game. Now, not just Cyclonus, other characters such as Motormaster and Ultra Magnus and even Hot Rod was included in this game. And I felt like I was missing out on a brand new experience with War for Cybertron. Like, these should have been included in the mainline games. Like, this looks so cool. It slaps so hard. He just looks so sharp. And the fact that he got dialogue as well that I used for the tier names. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, I wish we got to see this even in the sequel, Fall of Cybertron. Like, the High Moon games really struck a balance between the original and doing something refreshing and new at the same time. Next up, we've got the Earth Wars CYCLONUS, and I gotta admit, I'm not really feeling it. There's just something about it. Maybe it's the fact that it's like kind of too blocky and it looks tanky looking. Like, it doesn't look really smooth at all, and that head design is not the best. It's a bit too ugly for me. I'm sorry guys, I'm just not really feeling this one. I'm gonna call this the blocky CYCLONUS. Now we have bulky CYCLONUS. Now this is basically just the Titan's Return CYCLONUS, but they've cut a lot of it down that makes it look better. I still don't think it's like a massive improvement. It's still better than the Earth Wars one, but I'll put this one in the same tier as the Titan's Return because I still have the same issues with it, but the way how he's animated makes it look kind of a little bit better. And while we're at it, I'll briefly mention the Transformers Legends game, CYCLONUS. I mean, damn, the Legends game really goes all out with its artwork. It really shows CYCLONUS in this badass light. He looks like a threat, the purple with the flames as well. Damn, and he's got a shield and a gun as well that looks really, really cool together. Okay, next up we've got Pig CYCLONUS. You know what, I actually really like this. This is pretty accurate and faithful to Generation 1, and it actually looks pretty cool as well. I feel like I'll put this higher just because I really like that body design. Of course, it's CYCLONUS as a pig, but I still think it's pretty faithful and cool, and he actually looks one of the most badass angry pig designs. Alright, now we've got Creo CYCLONUS, and this is just Galvatron, but just labeled as CYCLONUS. This guy's not even trying. This one has got to be the bottom tier. Now let's talk about his Robots in Disguise design from the 2015 cartoon. Now this is him disguised as an Autobot. Overall, a kind of boring design. I like the head and the colours, that's kind of it. Now talking about his main design, I gotta admit, he looks kind of awkward. I like the shoulder pads, but they're a bit too big, like the back of him as well. The wings are a bit too big as well. Like, he's just too bulky. I don't know how to explain it, but there's always been something off about this design for me. Like, it looks like he has trouble moving, and it's just, yeah, it's just kind of an awkward design, really. I should love this. I like the head and all, but it just feels too tanky. Like, he's too juiced up. I actually think the Robots in Disguise Tiny Titans bio card of CYCLONUS here looks way better because it looks so much cleaner. Like, it looks so much more sharper, and it looks like the guy can actually move. This looks like him before the steroids. I will give the original Robots in Disguise design props for being at least different, but it could have just been cleaned up a little bit more. Now, a design many people may not know about is his cancelled concept art for the post-Revenge of the Fallen game. This is done by Ken Christensen, an artist that I've praised so many times before on this ranking series, but I've got to admit, I'm not feeling this design. I actually like the sketched out ideas he had for alternative versions of CYCLONUS just a little bit better. I feel like they're more in tune to the character. This just looks like a generic soldier to me, and it's a little bit messy. I think one of the main things I like about it is actually the jet mode. Now that looks like CYCLONUS. I think it's good for a different character, but as CYCLONUS, I don't really see it that much. Like I mentioned, the concept art, like sketches he had for alternative versions, look 10 times better. Most of these look really unique compared to the actual version you went with. I feel like if you're going to bring CYCLONUS to the movies, you've got to really emphasize those horns to make him really stand out. While he does have them on this design, you can barely make out what they are. I can't place this any higher, so this goes in the middle tier. Now let's talk about some fan arts, because I just want to pay tribute to all the great fan art out there, and it would be a crime if I didn't pay tribute to one of my favorite DeviantArt artists, Du Hong. His design of Transformers Prime CYCLONUS is incredible. Like, this is how I envisioned him. if he was ever to be in the show. Like, this is bang on perfect. I can't think of any other design that works as good as this. Like, I love how sharp he is, and the jet mode as well. It adds in that Transformers Prime and Transformers Animated blend together, you know, with that samurai kind of feel with the swords. You know, he just looks like an absolute menace. Just wow, I cannot praise this enough. Like his arms as well. I don't know why, but I love those arms. I can't get over the way how they're shaped. They just work. Like, that is Transformers Prime style. And last but not least, we have one of my favorite DeviantArt artists that I've wanted to pay tribute to on this series. We have Dario Calderoni, and he's done a perfect interpretation of Armada CYCLONUS in the Transformers animated world. Like, in my head, I visioned that this was CYCLONUS before the Warrior, before he became purple. Like, this is what gave me that idea. Like, it just kind of fits in the Transformers animated world. Even though Transformers Animated has hinted that, well, he was the previous Starscream clone, the coward Skywarp, which is like, okay, fine. But I like to vision this instead. Like, this just seems so much cool to me. And Dario managed to capture that aesthetic, and it fits so well, like that helicopter mode as well. It's just, it's Armada in Transformers Animated style. And I love it. I can't get enough of it. All links to these talented artists will be in the description box below. And there we have it, every CYCLONUS design ranked from worst to best. It's really hard to decide my favourite design. I will go with Transformers Animated CYCLONUS, I just love that design so much, but I'll always have a soft spot for Transformers Armada CYCLONUS. That is such a unique design, something so drastic and different, that it really works by itself. I hope we get to see more of that design in the future. As always, let me know what your favourite CYCLONUS design is in the comment section below. The next ranking video will be an Autobot, and I do plan on remaking some old ranking videos as well. So to keep all updated on that, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get all updates instantly. This has been Common and Cam, and until the next video.
Let the good times roll!